Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday, September 22nd, a continuation of very crisp fall-like weather here in the Mid-Atlantic region, the Northeast U.S. and the Great Lakes. Cooler than normal conditions will continue for another day or so. It does turn a little bit warmer for the second half of the work week, but basically dry weather pattern in much of the northeastern quadrant of the nation right through the end of the work week. Meanwhile, we do have a couple of tropical systems of interest this morning. Beta, tropical storm over the Texas coastline, is dumping some heavy rainfall down there. It will kind of meander along the Texas coastline, moving a little bit from southwest to northeast over the next couple of days, and we still may be dealing with some rainfall from tropical storm Beta as late as Thursday or Friday of this week in Louisiana, for example. Meanwhile, Hurricane Teddy, still Category 2 storm, will pound Nova Scotia by tonight going into early tomorrow with some heavy rainfall, very strong waves on the south side of Nova Scotia, and some very, very strong winds. After it pounds away at Nova Scotia, it continues to move to the north and east, and eventually actually helps to contribute to some snowfall over Greenland. We've talked many times about how nature tries to balance things out, and one of the ways it balances the heat and moisture in the atmosphere is through tropical cyclones that form in the tropics and ultimately bring some heat and moisture up to the northern latitudes. And indeed, Hurricane Teddy will result in some distribution of heat and moisture all the way up into the Arctic region. And again, it will actually result in some snowfall in southern Greenland over the next few days, and we'll show some of the forecast maps that depict such a scenario over the next couple of minutes. Let's start off by looking at the latest sea surface temperatures around the globe. This is from the Canadian Met Center. First of all, what kind of jumps out at you, this is our La Nina, colder than normal conditions from the west coast of South America, cutting across the equatorial region of the Pacific Ocean. Again, this is having an impact on the tropical season, not only in the Pacific Ocean, but also in the Atlantic Ocean. With cooler than normal waters, it helps to suppress activity, and the Pacific Ocean is way below normal, both the eastern and the western Pacific Ocean, below normal for this time of the year. That's west of the international dateline, partly as a result of the La Nina conditions in the tropical Pacific. In addition, whenever there's a La Nina, that tends to result in lower wind shear in the tropical Atlantic, which is favorable for activity. And indeed, we are having kind of a supercharged year in the Atlantic basin, but it's being certainly negated, more than negated, by the quiet season we're having out in the Pacific Ocean. The northern hemisphere as a whole is well below normal for tropical activity for the 2020 season. Notice also warmer than normal waters here, the Caribbean Sea, the Gulf of Mexico, the Southwest Atlantic. That also is contributing to an above normal season in the Atlantic basin, and it certainly will continue producing some threats as we go into the month of October, maybe even into November. Excuse me. Notice also a stripe here of cooler than normal water over the central Atlantic. That actually formed when Hurricane Paulette passed over that part of the ocean, caused some upwelling, which brings some cooler than normal water from down below up to the surface, and that is not too far from Bermuda right now, and it actually caused a little bit of weakening in Hurricane Teddy. This is Nova Scotia, Newfoundland area right in here, and again, that will be pounded by Hurricane Teddy overnight tonight into the day on Wednesday. And here is Greenland. Notice right here, and we'll see in a moment here, the forecast maps actually have some snow southern part of Greenland, partly as a result of the remains of Hurricane Teddy. By that time, it will be an extra tropical system, but nonetheless, it pounds away at the Canadian maritime provinces and then continues to move to the north and east all the way up into the Arctic region. Well, here's the latest map from the National Hurricane Center with the positioning of the Atlantic Basin tropical systems. There is a wave over the northern part of Cuba. We talked yesterday, a lot of times when there's very strong high pressure, as there is currently, over the southeastern part of Canada, the northeastern part of the U.S., it produces strong easterly winds, an onshore flow of air in Florida, the Carolinas, very persistent and quite strong east to northeast winds, and that sometimes results in the spin up of a tropical wave in this particular region over the Florida Straits, in this case the northern coastline of Cuba. And we'll monitor that over the next few days. Not looking like it'll develop into a tropical storm, but it's something to monitor. Meanwhile, Tropical Storm Beta produces some heavy rainfall pretty much near the coastline. Houston's getting dumped with some heavy rain, and this will continue to move slowly over the next couple of days into Louisiana, gradually weakening but still causing some heavy rainfall in that part of Texas and ultimately into Louisiana over the next couple of days. Here is Teddy, still a Category 2 hurricane, and this is Nova Scotia about to get pounded by Hurricane Teddy. Again, some very, very high waves on the southern coastline of Nova Scotia, very strong winds and heavy rain. The Teddy moves up into this region and then ultimately heads towards Newfoundland with some strong winds and heavy rain there. Now, it may become a extra tropical system, but the result is the same, a major storm for Nova Scotia and quite a bit of impact over Newfoundland as well, the Canadian maritime provinces. Meanwhile, Paulette actually looped back around. It did something like this and is still on the map here as a tropical storm. It probably just dies out over the next few days over the far eastern part of the Atlantic Ocean. Well, let's take a look at the operational run of the GFS from 6Z last night. We're looking at a broader view of North America here, because again, I want to point out the impact that Hurricane Teddy, or at least the remnants of Hurricane Teddy, will have all the way up into Greenland. This is Greenland right here with strong cold high pressure right over it right now. 1032 millibar high sitting on top of the Greenland. Here is the position of Hurricane Teddy. This is Maine right here and about to get pounded. Nova Scotia and then Newfoundland. Tropical Storm Beta again causing some heavy rainfall over the Texas coastline. Let's just push forward here, and here we go right into the nighttime hours here. Nova Scotia gets pounded away at whatever remains of Hurricane Teddy. Very possible it'll continue to be Category 1 hurricane status by the time it moves over Nova Scotia in the overnight hours into the early part of Wednesday. Meanwhile, Tropical Storm Beta continues to dump some heavy rainfall as it's a slow mover. Winds are not going to be a problem, any kind of a big problem with the Tropical Storm Beta, but it's the heavy rainfall. Meanwhile, let's now move forward into midweek here. Here it is, right sitting on top of Nova Scotia come early Wednesday morning. Greenland still has cold, high pressure sitting on top. Let's move forward. What remains of Teddy head towards the area of Newfoundland. Again, Canadian maritime provinces. Still cold, high pressure over Greenland here. And then ultimately, look at the blues starting to show up here in southern Greenland as the remains of Teddy. Again, it'll be an extratropical system by this time. Interact with some cold air, and there will be some significant snowfall, at least partly as a result of the remains of Hurricane Teddy in the southern part of Greenland over the next few days. This is the Friday morning forecast map. Let's go out a little bit farther in time in Friday night. Look at all that snow out there. And again, these low pressure areas now kind of partly as a result of the extratropical remains of Teddy at this point. But the bottom line here is what started in the tropics ends up in the Arctic region, brings some moisture from the tropical region all the way up into the southern part of Greenland, and it looks like it'll get deposited in the form of snow in the southern part of Greenland over the next few days after it pounds away in Nova Scotia tonight going into the early part of Wednesday. Again, Nova Scotia will get some heavy rainfall, strong winds, and some very high waves, especially along the southern coastline. Meanwhile, continuation of cool, dry weather here in the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast U.S., Great Lakes. It does turn warmer, comfortably warm, however, for the second half of the work week. That's it for now. For PerspectiveWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.